In a discussion of aviation and travel to Singapore, one of the first things that comes to mind is Singapore's Changi Airport, which is by consensus the top airport around the world for much of the last decade. And it's very hard to argue against anyone who says that the airport is a traveler favorite. While the amenities at Changi is documented throughout various media outlets, it also happens to be that Singapore happens to be a major hub for travel and trade within the Southeast Asian region. While a future trip to Singapore will involve flying into Singapore's Changi Airport, there is another airport that many may not be familiar with, a small airport which could be considered as Changi Light. It also happens to be one of the oldest airfields in the tiny red dot. This airport is Seletar Airport, which while it is overshadowed by its bigger brother Changi, it does play an important role in aviation in Southeast Asia and the history of Singapore's aviation industry. Located around 16 kilometers west of Changi Airport and around 20 kilometers north of city center, Seletar was first opened in 1928 as an Air Force base for the British military, known as RAF Seletar. While primarily used as a military base, it received Singapore's first commercial airline flights in the year 1937 with the Warren Air Service operating flights between Malaysia and Singapore. Along with playing the role as the first commercial airport for the then British territory of Singapore, it also hosted the landings of two of aviation history's prominent figures. The first with Amy Johnson's solo flight between the United Kingdom and Australia in 1930, followed in 7 years by Amelia Earhart's around-the-world flight attempt in 1937. And that same year, flight operations for commercial flights were shifted to Kallang Airport, leading up to World War II, with the Japanese military occupying the airfield between 1942 to 1945. And it was during this time that the current runway at Seletar was first built. Following World War II, the British military would continue its use of the airfield, while civilian airline operations would shift again in 1954 from Kallang Airport to Paya Lebar, the immediate predecessor to Changi Airport, as it became a part of the Federation of Malaysia and then it became an independent nation. Seletar would eventually be handed to the Singaporean government in 1971, while Changi Airport was opened in 1980. While Kallang Airport was closed and Paya Lebar was converted to what we now know as the Paya Lebar Air Base, Seletar was one of the first training centers for pilots with Singapore's Air Force. Seletar would become the hub for general and private aviation, and it became the go-to airport for private aircraft and those who availed such services to travel to Singapore. With a 6,000-foot runway, the airport would also add in medical flights and would welcome limited small commercial airline traffic, operating short hops to Malaysian cities. This isn't the end of it for Seletar, as it has become a premier hub for aviation-related businesses, as a service center for aircraft as large as Boeing 737s and Airbus A320s, where several companies do offer maintenance, repair, and overhaul services for these aircraft for major airlines in the Asia Pacific. While business may be good in the maintenance and repair department, the airport has been seen as a viable alternate to Changi Airport, which just so happens that the Changi Airport Group is actually in charge of Seletar Airport since 2009, and lately they have unveiled some new upgrades to the airport, including a 10,000 square meter new passenger terminal along with a private passenger terminal go along with it, opened in 2018 and just last year. Facing the needs to stay competitive with its other Southeast Asian and Asian counterparts, the Changi Airport Group has seen an opportunity to free up flight slots at Changi Airport by shifting some of the small and turboprop aircraft operations at Changi Airport to Seletar. Among these airlines was Malaysian Airlines subsidiary Firefly, which had initial plans to launch flights to Seletar in December of 2018, and to accommodate them, plans were made for an ILS approach procedures for the airport, which hasn't had one. And it was these plans that set up some controversy and tension between its neighbor, Malaysia, which just happens to be a few kilometers up north from the airport. In one of the most complex air traffic control systems in the world, the Singaporean government filed the ILS procedures in December, which included a flight path from the north passing over the city of Pasir Gudang. Now, it is important to note in the years prior to this move that there was some discussion between both governments regarding this new procedures, and the Singaporean government was seeking the approval from Malaysia, which it was required to do so, per previous aviation agreements. However, there was no approval given. So when it was filed, it was seen in Malaysia's eyes that as a breach of Malaysia's territory, to which the Malaysian government designated the area as a military area, and it was one of the few things that Malaysia's government did, as there were other conflicts involving the cross-border disputes between the Singaporean and Malaysian governments into the late 2018s and early 2019s. When it came to the issue of the ILS approach over Pasir Gudang, the Singapore government emphasized the safety of flights approaching from the north, while Malaysia's government retorted that the procedures not just violated Malaysia's sovereignty, but also would hinder development in the areas just under the flight path. This cross-border dispute would hold off flights until April, when both sides agreed to make concessions, with Singapore dropping its plans for the ILS approach and Malaysia dropping the military airspace restriction, along with growing interest to review the agreements between Singapore and Malaysia per the International Civil Aviation Organization's 1974 regulations for arrivals and departures into Singapore and the surrounding airspace, which does include some parts of Malaysia. While Changi Airport is gearing up for its own expansion with a third runway and a Terminal 5 project, which would nearly double the size of the existing airport, we are seeing an attempt by the Changi Airport Group to turn Seletar into what could be called Changi Light, and the future it could have for some regional and commuter flights. For now, the airport is still limited compared to its bigger brother Changi in terms of transport to and from the city, along with food and beverage selections and shopping options that you see and enjoy at Changi Airport. Though I think the operators and pilots who frequent the airport probably will say that the top priority is ensuring a safe landing procedure, especially from the north. This is probably one of the biggest issues for Seletar right now, as there is no question that the Changi Airport Group could develop the airport into a great place for travelers, while at the same time Malaysia does want to keep their national sovereignty. So I wonder if we could see some specialized operations, including procedural turns, upcoming for pilots approaching from the north of Seletar. Since its separation from the Federation of Malaysia, there have been various disputes between Singapore and Malaysia's governments, and the potential growth of Seletar could be resting on the hands of the talks between the two nations. Thank you for watching. This has been another edition of Flights in Asia, highlighting the news and updates from the aviation and travel scene from the Asia Pacific. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Once again, thank you for watching and have a great day.